Welcome to TFI Tuesday, where members of the State Support Team, Region 5, will share tidbits of each of the tiered Fidelity Inventory features. We hope you will find these short discussions meaningful and beneficial to your PBIS team. And now, here's this week's TFI Tuesday tidbit.
Welcome to Episode 3. In today's TFI Tuesday episode, we are going to focus on Feature 1.5, Problem Behavior Definitions, and how that feature integrates with 1.7, Professional Development. Well, hello, Marla.
Hi, Jessica.
Could you please explain a little bit about what is included in Feature 1.5 with us?
Absolutely, I would love to. The feature of 1.5 shares with us that a school building needs to have clearly defined procedures to support consistency with responding to behavioral infractions. Consistency creates that condition for increased structures, feeling of safety, and a positive learning environment. The T-chart not only includes the definitions of the behaviors that we do not want to see in our buildings, but also a continuum of responses to aid the adult in monitoring infractions. It is important to understand that the development of the T-chart begins with the PBIS leadership team, but is not in isolation from the staff and students of the rest of the building.
Thank you. I agree that consistency is so very important for our PBIS framework. Can you give us a little more information about the purpose of the T-chart?
Basically, when an effective discipline procedure such as a T-chart for classroom and office managed behaviors, ultimately it increases consistency in the building for the adults in the way we respond to interfering behaviors. It also increases the collection of and problem solving with meaningful data, and to increase instructional time as well. Another benefit of creating a T-chart is the visualization of pro-social behaviors that we want to see in our schools. It allows the PBIS team to verify that the pro-social behaviors that we want to see are in our matrix, and we know that if it's in our matrix, then we will teach them.
Absolutely. Now I understand. When we're creating or refining our T-chart, what should we keep in mind?
One aspect that we need to think about when creating the T-charts for major and minor behaviors is that there is a lot of bias that may go into it. That is where we need to be aware of our own experiences and upbringings in order to make sure that we are not trying to project our values, but rather the values of the students that we serve. We need to first identify what has impacted us. Then we need to be sure that we are offering education on when certain behaviors can be situationally appropriate. We want to think about identity and awareness of both staff, student, and community. We want to be aware of voice, supportive environment, and situational appropriateness, as well as the data for accountability on our behalf.
That sounds great. So if a team is just beginning, how would they get started with this?
Well, as the quote says, sometimes the hardest thing about getting started is getting started, but it doesn't have to be. That is the beauty of having a team. So where do you start? Well, with your data. Looking at the infractions that are currently the ones that you see most of. If you are having a hard time deciding, SWIS has a list of most frequent behaviors that may help you begin defining your behaviors. And defining those means what do they look like and sound like. Your descriptions need to be operational, observable, and countable. They need to be exhaustive. All problem behaviors are covered. And you might even want to include an other section. They need to be mutually exclusive. One problem behavior only goes into one category. And by all means, it needs to be simple. Use the smallest number of categories possible. Useful decision making. Consider organizing by levels to help staff think type of behavior, problem behavior to level of consequences. There are wonderful examples available on pbis.org if you are interested in seeing some examples.
Well, those are some great tips. Once we identify the behaviors we're avoiding, how do we start to organize our process for addressing those behaviors?
That's a great question, Jessica, because once those behaviors are defined, then they are categorized into office managed, which is sometimes called major, and classroom managed, which is sometimes called minors. It is important to note here that classroom managed behaviors are those behaviors that teachers have the authority as well as the tools to address by redirecting, reteaching, and supporting. More to come on that when we talk about 1.8 in TFI Tuesdays. The next step is to determine how we will respond to those behaviors when they are displayed. There will be a classroom continuum of discouraging and responding to interfering behaviors, and an office continuum that will explicitly lay out what we would do if it is a first offense, second offense, third offense, and even maybe a fourth offense. Of course, it is always best to be proactive, but in certain situations, even our best proactive strategies may not address all situations of interfering behaviors. And again, yes, we will talk more about the classroom in the TFI Tuesdays that address 1.8.
Thank you. That sounds like a clear and consistent way to address unwanted behavior. Now, once that is established, what does the team need to do next?
Well, once the T-chart is complete, with the definitions and the responses we do need to determine how we will collect our data, we need to create a referral form for office as well as a classroom referral form for classroom managed behaviors. That really has to fit your environment. The collection of data will help the team to determine if the actions that were put into place are working. So let's think about some critical features. First, it has to be easy. It should require less than 1 minute to complete and minimal use of written text. You want to include that relevant information, and these are going to sound familiar, sort of like the big five. The who, the name, the grade, the gender, the student, the adult. What is the problem behavior? Where? What is the location in which the interfering behavior occurred? When? What time of day? With who? Who else was involved? Why? Why does this keep happening? And then on your referral form, you're going to want an area for some further details and even possibly an area for administrative decisions. Lastly, the procedures, the definitions, and how to use the referral form for the interfering behaviors must be taught to staff, students, and families. Because remembering a laminating sign doesn't mean that it has been taught and it is understood. You also want to think about how you're going to communicate it or roll it out. So remember, if we want to change behavior, it has to be taught and supported, even, or should I say especially for adults. So when you think of staff, think about that initial training on the flowchart, the behavior definitions. It might occur during a staff in service. You might do a check-in at staff meetings or after data review. And you will want to be certainly sure of doing refreshers after holiday breaks, because even adults can forget things. For students, you want to go beyond just that flowchart or walkthrough in all classrooms or the flowchart posted on classroom walls. The flowchart included in day planners. You need to include conversations with students to provide feedback and to ask questions, so that way you know that they understand it. And then thirdly, our families. Think about maybe doing a PBIS video explanation. Maybe you want to put a PBIS brief on your school website. Flowcharts shown and discussed at family events is one way of thinking about it, but also think about that two-way communication. You don't want to just talk at our families. You want to listen as well as receive information. And then you always have your PBIS information packet that's sent home at the beginning of the year and when a new student actually is enrolled.
Well, thank you, Marla. That's a lot of great advice for us to consider around behavior definitions. Now that we've gone over feature 1.5, will your team take this opportunity to revisit and refine your unwanted behaviors, to reconsider your continuum of discouraging and responding to interfering behaviors, or improve your rollout of this information to the staff? How will you, as a listener, improve your PBIS framework with this information shared today? We thank you again for your time today and wanted to remind you that you can find many more resources on our website at sstr5.org.
Thank you for joining us for our TFI Tuesdays. We hope you'll join again next week to learn about additional TFI features. Until then, be safe, be kind, and be positive.